Ginn. I'm a software engineer with a company called Universal Design. It's at ud.net. And they are a company that's been around for 40 years, and they do FileMaker since like the mid-90s. I'm a certified FileMaker developer, and I'm here to share with you some knowledge that I've gained using AI directly with FileMaker. And I'll bring over my notes to begin with. Okay, so all right, we're going to go over three things, and we're going to have a starter bonus. And the starter bonus is we all know about OpenAI. We all know about Anthropic, and those are pretty good, and I use both. But there's HuggingChat, and I'll tell you what's interesting about it. If I click on the link here for HuggingChat, it goes to huggingface.co/chat, and it's just quick. You know, you can see the response on it's just really good compared to ChatGPT, which is like a typewriter sometimes. It's kind of nice. But here's the thing that is most interesting to me about Hugging Face, and that is the models that they allow you to use. Like this is for HuggingChat. They give you these models, which are pretty popular, and you've probably heard of some of them, but even Google's in here. So you select it, that can be your model to then compare it to the other models. So it's very interesting as far as that goes. Then when you get in their playground, and I don't have a link for that, but you'll find it in there. You can create a free account. And when you get into their playground, they will let you play with almost every model that they have available. You get to pick the model and then interact with it. So it's pretty nice that it's using their CPUs, GPUs, and you get the benefit. And I experimented with that pretty heavily last year. And the reason was I was trying to get something that would give me I wanted to create calculations and functions in AI that would work in FileMaker. You know, in the data viewer, you can go in there and you do a calculation and get a result. Well, I wanted some AI to give that to me. I tried a bunch of them. And what I determined is that OpenAI truly is the best one for generating scripts that you need in FileMaker. Now, obviously, you can't import those or anything, but they are there and they're laid out and they're okay. They're not perfect, they're okay. But what it's best at is doing calculations. The other engines fail miserably at doing the calc engine kind of things. So that's where we're gonna, and the other thing is, let's go back to our topics. Create and use your own GPTs, as they call them in OpenAI, for your own help, okay? And the next thing we're gonna do is use screenshots with AI to get help. And the last thing I'm gonna show you, it's a homegrown thing that I've created that kind of rolls all this up into one, but it's very bespoke to me. But I think once you see it, it might set off a light bulb in you to do for yourself. That kind of brings everything together. All right.
Thanks, Brian. Before you kind of really get into it, we want to know if you want people to raise hands, if they've got questions, if you want to stop to answer questions, or you want to do it yourself, say, I'm at a stopping point. What do you think about this section? How would you like to handle the questions and answers?
Thank you, Beverly. I would like them as they come. And because I have everybody on the left screen, if someone could prompt me that somebody has a question, that would be helpful. I can stop immediately, answer the question, and continue. I don't have any problem with that.
Yeah, we can do that. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, so this is your starter bonus, is the HuggingChat. I love it. So fun. All right, now here's where we get into, everyone has probably heard of GPTs, as they call them. And those are, they're like mini apps within OpenAI, and they're highly customized. And early on, probably the first day they were released, I created one just for me, and it's called FMP Expert Help. And it's published and it's for everyone. And I'll put the link here in chat. Oh, maybe. Oh, I have to bring back this and go to chat and go to everyone. And then, whoops.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank
All
you.
right. Now, I'll roll that up and done. Okay. All right. So let me get back to here. And did I lose my? Oh, there it is. All right. So let's go there now. Oh, I need to get you there the normal way. That's a direct way because you can share a link, but let's do it the very classic way. So this is my Chat GPT, just regular old Chat GPT. If you want to get to know what's in FileMaker already in there, you can go to Explore GPTs. You can then type in FileMaker and just wait. You don't have to hit return. It'll bring up all the GPTs that exist that you can explore. And for some reason, OpenAI loves to put FileMaker when I type FileMaker. But this one is, we all know her, and she has 800 plus users in this. And then mine's here. And if I click on this, it will start a chat. And what it is a way that I can ask it all these questions and more, just like regular Chat GPT. But I've highly constrained it to the help file within Claris. So I can say, show me data modeling and follow Claris's guidelines, and it'll do that. But that's just the helper little starter questions. I use this almost every day. I'll bring it up for myself, and any FileMaker question I have, I put in here. And I know I'm not going to get garbage because I told it specifically to only look at FileMaker Help, and it does it. And it goes, and I'm going to stop it because it goes on and on and on. But what I'd really like to do is to give you the ability to do this. So, and then you have to have Chat GPT Plus in order to do this. You have two choices. You can do that little search as I did for FileMaker, or you can create your own, which is what I would love for everyone to do. So you do that by exploring GPTs, and then you create a GPT. And when you create it, here's what it's going to look like. I took some screenshots of mine, and I named it. In the beginning, they wouldn't let you call it FileMaker, so I had to do FMP. You give it a description. Now mine added OpenAPI documents because I needed it. So I'm doing both. But you give it the instructions, and custom instructions are what makes AI or OpenAI very specific. Custom instructions tells it how to behave, how to answer, all those prompt things that we've been hearing about for months. That's what it does. So I'm going to paste in the chat all of this, the instructions, because they're very detailed. Oh, it's too long. You'll have to get it from the PDF. So I've got it in text.
They're not in the PDF either because it cut it off when it printed it.
Okay, I'll give you a moment to screenshot this then. Because you'll want to follow this guideline to make it very specific to you, okay? So it doesn't go reaching out to any other sites because you only want FileMaker advice, okay? And you give it the tone, you're a FileMaker, a formal professional, all this stuff, Okay. If you don't want anyone to download your GPTs, you need to not enable code interpreter. If you do, they'll be able to download any and all of this information. All right, and that will give you your own FileMaker expert help for you. Okay, you don't have to rely on me or anyone else. All right, so that's number one.
Brian, sorry to
Yes.
interrupt.
Mhm.
Does that mean that you've just created your own model?
That's a good question.
Like you forked it and you have now your own model trained specific in addition to what it's all based on, but it has specific training for FileMaker knowledge.
That is
Is
correct.
that
Everything you said is
okay?
correct. Yes,
Okay,
I would
cool.
call
Cool.
it a sort of a model. Yeah, yeah, because it's highly restrained. It has its own core data, corpus of data. So I guess it, not in the strictest sense, a model is like Menstrual, 7B, or Grok. Those are models. But it does limit it in such a way that it appears to be a model because it will not look elsewhere. You've told it, and I'll tell you where I told it that. Whoops. I tell it somewhere in here. Oh, it will not interact with web searches or external resources. You know, do not use any other source other than knowledge. And the uploaded knowledge always give source URLs answers. Oh, and I do love that. Whenever I ask it a question and it's now I know it's looking at Claris help, it will give me a link to the Claris help. So I can go directly. That's pretty nice. So yeah, great question. So it is somewhat of a model, but you can see how easy this is to set up, right? This is nothing. So if you go into create a GPT, they normally guide you through create. They'll just stair step you through it. You can just bypass that and go to configure, put in something similar to what I have here, and you'll get it. And for yourself, you don't even have to have starter conversations. That's just for the public that comes in and wants a little push. All right, now we're going to get into some really good stuff. All right, we're going to use screenshots to guide AI. And so let's go here. Let's go just regular old chat. All right. Let me see. Okay. Here's what I've done. I've already taken a screenshot and I want it to tell me how to do the math to come up with the total price of this, okay? Or whatever formula I need in FileMaker to give me whatever the total cost of this board is. Okay, this part. So what I do is I go in here and I think, oh, that is a different example. Wait a minute. But still we're going to do it because it's fun. All right. So I'm going to say, using this screenshot, tell me what is the total cost. And then I just upload the screenshot. Oh, yeah. And I tell it, this is the most important thing. Use code interpreter. For some reason, my autocorrect always loves to do that. So I've uploaded the screenshot. I've got what I want it to do, and then I tell it to go. It should change the cursor, and it does. Anytime it says analyzing, it's generally using Python to do what I've asked it to do, and it does that because I asked it to use code interpreter. Yep, that's right, because I remember that from earlier when I did it. I used this with a real client 2 days ago. All right, so I recognize that answer is correct. Now, what if I needed to use this in FileMaker? What I would do is I would expose the analysis. This almost always comes back in Python, and it gives you Python that you could run, but you can copy the code And then you can go, let me think about how I want to tell you this because I'm a little bit ahead. So we've got Python. We need to turn Python into the calc engine calculation. So, and we're going to have AI do that for us. Even though I guess we could do it, we have all the information here. But let me go back to here. I'll say, using FileMaker, turn this code into a calculation. Calculation. Oh, wait a minute. Using FileMaker, turn this Python code into a calculation. And I hit return. And it's going to think. And it should give me some FileMaker calc engine. Yes. Perfect. Maybe. It's a pretty simple formula. So I'm going to copy the code. I'm going to go into FileMaker. I'm going to do, let's create new, just a blank. All right. And now we're going to tell it, okay, we're going to take all the defaults. We're going to bring up the data viewer and we're going to add it to see if it works. And it's wrong. And we're not going to waste any time figuring out why it's wrong. What we're going to do is say that didn't work. And it will do it again. And this is what you have to do with ChatGPT to get it to work. It'll get it wrong the first time. You ask it to do it again. It'll do the same thing, but it'll try to give you a better formula. That looks terrible. So that won't work either. We can just tell. This is very typical. Don't get too upset with OpenAI. It really has to work. Although, when I ran this 2 days ago, it got it right the first time. That's still not right. Yeah, it's a really simple thing. I don't know what's going on. Let's go. That's not what I wanted. So you can stop it. You can say, try again. No. Anytime it starts this way, we know that's not a valid thing. All right. I'm going to jump you in then to the real deal. Favorites. Recent. There we go. All right. Let me clear out some things. All right. This is the third part. This is the bespoke thing that I wrote myself to do everything that you saw up to now, with the exception of no images, but it will do calcs using. All of this is driven by OpenAI's API. So, FileMaker Pro, we need This is our custom instructions. And the reason you have to add Pro, even though we don't call it that anymore, I don't think, I noticed that AI works much better if you do FileMaker Pro instead of just FileMaker. So we're going to use the default engine here, but we have many, and we already have our endpoint. So we're going to paste, we're going to go there, and we're going to go get their Python again. I don't know where the Python go. There it is. We're going to put this in, and it's just the Python from there. And then I'm going to ask AI. This is going to use the API to go, and you have to have GPT plus to do this. And it didn't evaluate. I've got it to where it'll auto evaluate, so this isn't going to work. So we ask it again, although that's pretty close. Let's do it one more time. This is just like telling it, try again, please. All right, now sometimes it likes to add verbiage, and I don't want it to. And this will evaluate at some point. Oh, this is just like the real world. This worked the very first time 2 days ago when I needed it. Today, nothing. Unbelievable. Oh, yeah, it's got this stuff going on. Sometimes it doesn't write good code.
There it is. So it just evaluated it.
It did it. I need to stop. And I don't have an undo, but you're right. Thank you. It did do that. Oh, my bad. I don't have an undo in here. So I lost it. But let's see if this one also works. Okay, good. Thank you. Yeah, so all this field is, it takes the results, and you've all done this. It just evaluates upon change here and puts it in here, just like you're in the data viewer. You know what I mean? So this is very quick. And you're right, you caught it before I did, Vince. So this is great. Now that we're in here, what I want to do, I have a result. So it did. So what this is telling me up to now is that I asked it to do something. It did convert Python to FileMaker code. Perfect. It gave me an evaluated result, but I don't know if this is correct. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask AI to turn this prompt into questions. So it's going to make another call using this, and it's going to say, turn that into questions, and it's going to give you all of this. And I'm going to copy this out to here. And I'm going to say the results are about that. This. All right. I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to go to AI. And I'm going to do a new chat. And I'm going to say, use code interpreter to check this. And it's going to take the questions and the answer. Oh, it should have initiated a code interpreter, and it didn't. Oh, it's telling us what it's going to do. It may do it. Oh, and it didn't have that in the question. Was it over here? Yeah. Oh, it didn't. Oh, so what I do is and this does happen, you can either write the questions yourself, but I have AI do it. So we're just going to get a new round of questions and we'll see if it includes that. Nope. Do it again. I could add it myself. I'll let it do it one more time. We can add it.
Is this a demo file that you could share if we put in our own API key?
Possibly, but not yet.
Okay.
Thank you for asking. Oh, And I'm going to give it what it needs. Actually, I can do that over here. Now it should be able to do it. I already did all that, didn't I? All right. Let's do this. Let's do a new one. Yeah, I don't have enough information. It's all right. Let's go to the one that worked. Here it is. I did this 2 days ago and it went better. You know, we're in a live demo. This is the Python code that it gave me 2 days ago. And then it turned it immediately on one request into this, which was correct because the Python code already had the answer, as you recall. Then I asked it to give me questions, and the same thing. I moved those questions over here, put down the total cost. Then I dropped that in AI. Now, I'm going to jump to the point. What I would really like, this is pretty useful because you can just ask it a point blank question that you need a formula to, or an execute SQL formula to, and it'll give you the code. It'll check it. What I'd like is once it does that, I want it to generate questions about this. And then I want it to automatically ask AI to confirm. And I just realized I was going the wrong direction. They have an API for code interpreter, and I tried to implement it, but it's session based. So I had to go back and forth. And I wanted to do it under one API call. So I learned later that it's codecs that I needed. So I got the URL for that the other day. I just haven't got time to complete it. So what it'll do is when I hit this, it will do everything I just asked, turn these questions with this result, and then send that in one call, and it'll answer yes or no and tell me what's wrong. See, then I'm in an ecosystem that will work just for me to work in one screen to do it. That's what I'm after, but I haven't got this part to work yet.
Very cool idea.
It works for me. I use it a lot. All right, so let's go back to, thank you, Beverly. Let's go back to here. All right. Okay, now I'll give you the example of when I was in expert help. This was a real life situation from a few days ago also. I had this scenario going on, okay? So I took a screenshot of that, gave it to AI, gave it the calculations, you know, and everything. And what I wanted to do is I wanted it to give me, to make this work, you know, where you filter a portal based on a radio button. So I wanted it to give me the code for that. And it took a few rounds to do it, but it did it. And by the way, in the PDF, you don't have the answer. It took another 2 go-arounds to do it, but it worked. And then it got it, and I said, let's see. It got close on this one. Then I just told it to keep going, and it worked. But isn't that cool that it'll do that? You just give it screenshots of your FileMaker, tell it what you want, and it will respond. I just think that's awesome, like super duper. Yeah, and here's where I think this one worked, but it didn't work exactly how I wanted it. And I went another go around and it did. But it gave me this code, copied it in, put it in Data Viewer, and it worked. And then I put it in my solution. All right, so let's go back to our list. Yep, it's home sun. Yep. All right, and then lastly, I would like to share with you this. Okay, This is just dreaming. This is really dreaming. What I've shown you today is, how to use AI with FileMaker. And it works and it's fine. It's usually not as slow and bad as it is today. But it works and it's helpful. But what I thought about a couple of months ago was, I'll give you a real, let's do this. Here's my example from my first class. We'll replicate this. We'll get rid of this. We'll get rid of this. We'll get rid of this. All right. Give me the first Tuesday of each month of the current year. It should list 12 dates, all being a Tuesday. Let's see what engine it's using. Write a FileMaker Pro calculation code response only. Yeah, without commentary. Yeah. Okay. All right. I can ask it to do that. This is a really tough problem. It usually doesn't work for several attempts. And by the way, I can put in the number of attempts here. I can tell it 5 and it'll do it automatically until it gets an evaluated result. The reason I'm not doing that, and this is good, but it fails, I can tell, because there should be 12 dates here. So I ask it again. But that's pretty cool that it at least got something going. We'll give it another couple of rounds. Okay. So I can generate my questions.
Brian,
Yes.
when you're asking it to run it again, does it still have the context of what
Yeah.
it just did? So it continues.
I don't have the context. It's as though you're making a brand new request.
Oh, I see. Okay. Thank you.
Yes. So here it did give it, looks like whatever, 12. And then I asked it here to turn these into questions. Looks okay at first shot. Results are, drop this in. We'll do this just once. We won't spend too much time on it. Yeah, and it is using code interpreter, just like I want. And see, it doesn't have any of the FileMaker code. It just has what I want as questions and the answer. Yeah, and it do not match. So it's telling it it's incorrect. But when I get it right, and this is pure, it's not lazy. It's just, I'm just trying to get another angle because this is a lot of work to check these. You have to go to a calendar and it's a lot of work. Okay. That's not the dream though. Here's my dream. What if I could have a FileMaker solution that every time it needed something like this, I could go ask Code Interpreter to give me the solution. So, and then send that back into a field and I just use it. You know what I mean? I bypass this whole calc engine. I just send it this and I get this. But I get valid results. Do you follow me?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You're using the AI to give you the result of the value of the calculation.
Yes. And if you did it with Code Interpreter, it would write Python. You would never know what code it wrote. And along with this, in my instructions, I would say, check your work. Instead of doing FileMaker, it would say, this would say, use Code Interpreter to give me the results. I don't want code, I want the results. Yes, and I would stuff that into a field or a variable and go to town. Now that's the dream, because then I am relieved of the burden of writing a calc. To me, that's super duper powerful. And still use FileMaker for all the lovely things that it does. I'm just augmenting it.
Basically making an API call to give you the result back, and there are a lot of things we do for that. where we're not necessarily wanting it to be a calculation or a script. We just want to say, what is this? And give it to me. And it can be a pretty complex calculation that maybe FileMaker doesn't have built in. Like you get into statistical calculations that we don't necessarily have. Use this formula. You just go out and say, give me the results of what I'm asking. So that's very cool.
Yes, you are exactly right. Well, that is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Wow, that's very cool.
We can leave the recording going, or if people want to just discuss it without it being recorded, we can do that as well. So what's the kind of consensus? Vote yes to keep the recording in your next to your name, or raise your hand in the reactions.
I would even suggest an alternative, which is keep the recording going for another 10 minutes. And then, because maybe people who watch the recording might want to also hear some of the questions that are asked at this time. And then we could stop the recording and continue for a little longer. But
Okay.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think what you're suggesting, Brian, is that the trick to all this, or not the trick, but the key to all this is really in the prelude, so to speak, in how you give it where to look and the instructions and get everything ready for it so that it can be successful. And I think the powerful thing maybe with us as the FileMaker community is that we have our own data, and that's the corpus of data. It's not the internet, the corpus of data. It's your solution, your client's solution, or your solution that is the corpus of data. And then you just have to kind of give it some preamble. I have a contacts table, and this contacts table is for clients who buy these products, and kind of like give it a story and then turn it loose if you wish.
Yeah,
Is that the kind of the gist of it?
it is. Yeah, it is.
I'm also fascinated with, again, ChatGPT is the most common, but the plethora of models out there. Any suggestions for people who are getting started, like if they want to explore other models, how to get started with that?
Anyone can jump in, but I haven't yet tried to run one locally because the RAM requirements are so huge. I gravitated when I wanted to play. I would always go to HuggingChat. Go look at their models. You just do a search for it. They have, I believe, no, I won't even speculate. It's either hundreds or over 1,000 models that you can use. And then you can go play, because you'll hear about all the more popular ones and you'll say, I want to go over there and see what that one will do. And what I've learned is I've learned that OpenAI truly is the best. It will give you good calculations, good execute SQL. It does really well. The others barely even get. They fall apart. In fact, I have never gotten a successful calc to evaluate with any other model other than OpenAI. Oh, I'm kind of glad you mentioned that. Let me show you one thing with that in mind. Here. Okay. These are all the models that are appropriate for FileMaker. They're not the vision or anything, although it did sneak in one when I did an update a moment ago. What I have it do is I have it grab all the models that are available under OpenAI. And the good news is they keep them around so that if you build something and it worked, you can still use that. This is from June of last year. So it was up until recently the most successful to do calculations, but they just brought this one out. Their naming convention is better too, right? So I only got that 2 days ago, but I haven't tested it. So this one may be a better one. I don't know. But I mentioned to try it.
Very cool.
Yeah. And that is the day that I downloaded it. Yeah. That's amazing. Huh. So I can tell it here. Then when I go to run it, it will run the calculation based on the new model. So, and these are each one by one. Oh, I remembered it. Okay. Let's try that just for fun.
And I think something else to consider is you get into something that's a lot of processing power, not only the RAM, but perhaps the chip that's running it might make a difference. And this is using insert from URL, right, to
Yes.
communicate? Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is what most of the demos I've seen is using.
Yeah. It's
Pretty
common
cool.
for doing this. You see, I'd introduced the
Yeah.
backtick FileMaker. You have to
Yeah.
get one of those for it to evaluate, and
Right.
it still didn't evaluate. So yeah.
Okay. The other point to make is that you want to make sure that you're not giving away the keys to the kingdom. You're not telling, ChatGPT, here's my login and here's my data and things like that. You're trying to get it to give you an answer without revealing the things that you don't want it to know,
That's
because
correct.
it's out to the world. So
Yeah.
looks like Mark had a comment in chat.
Oh,
Mark, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, let me unmute. Yeah, we are somewhat of a Microsoft shop where I work, and so I had some XML, and I hadn't written an XSLT in a long time. So I was like, okay, open up Copilot, say, here's my XML. I need this as an FMP XSLT results, and it went and got me about 2/3 of the way there, and I was able to fix it. But I ran into
Awesome.
the sort of I ran into the sort of problem that he had today, where you ask the question and it gives you something close, and then you say that doesn't work, try again, and it just gets worse and worse and worse.
that's funny.
Yeah. So you have to kind of know generally what you want. So it's going to save you time on some of this, but you still have to make sure that what you get back is really what you want. You have to vet it a little bit and verify that, what is there is valid, and especially if you get into scripts, if you have it writing scripts for you. Is the if followed by an end if, and does loop have an end loop, and things like that are a little more picky.
Yeah.
But even in the functions, you have to be really careful that what parameters must be in the function, and kind of what constraints might be on that. You can only send a number, or you can only do this or do that, and your date has to be formatted a particular way, or things like that you kind of, as a developer, know this. Then it gets maybe a little better if perhaps even if you put that in the prompt, that you're telling it how you want it to be returned. You're giving it some hints that are going to make it maybe a little more accurate. Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome.
Got your hand.
Brian, you still, sorry, Mark, you still have your hand up. Still have another question? No. Sorry.
I
Brian,
didn't think I did. Sorry.
it's okay. Is in your experience, is ChatGPT 4 faster than 3 and is better than 3?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, much better. Okay.
Especially
And
for calculations. Yeah.
and another question is, anytime you're dealing with code, do you always want to have it work with code interpreter?
No,
No?
that's just to check the results. That's what I ask it to do.
So kind of like evaluate. You
yeah.
use code interpreter to
yeah.
evaluate this calculation.
Yeah, now I'm glad
Okay.
you said that, because that literally is OpenAI's version of evaluate.
Right.
Yeah.
But you were getting back Python, which also needed a translation to FileMaker.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And yeah.
Yeah. So it's doing its thing. I only want to get FileMaker back so I can use this, because then I would plop this. But you can see the advantage of using something like this. I don't have to copy and paste into the data viewer, you know what I mean? And keep going back around and around with the data viewer. I've got it all right here, and I just ask.
Raise your hand. How many of you have had to do that?
We're all there.
Yeah.
Live there.
Or
But
or
yes,
I will write like this, where you've got boxes, fill in information and then you say evaluate, and so you can write notes to it. This one didn't work.
yeah. And you notice since the early going in my talk, I haven't opened up data viewer at all. I just live right here and I love it.
Yeah, that's what I did when I was testing all the SQL, is I didn't necessarily do it through data viewer or writing calculations. I had them as text queries, and then I would say evaluate to see what results I got back. Much better. Then again, you could write notes of what works and what doesn't, and test another version of it with, well, maybe I've got some syntax not quite right and I can change
Yeah.
it
Now,
without going to that data viewer again. So cool.
yeah. Now you noticed I'm getting a lot of comments and little backticks. Okay, there's been a change at OpenAI, even with the models that I used pretty successfully before. You noticed I have it say provide a code-only response without comments or commentary. Back 4 months ago, it would do that almost faithfully each time. Now, almost every time, it's giving me a little bit above and below, that'll blow the calculation. So that's why I've steered away from doing this attempt thing, because that used to work and it would just give me raw code and it would evaluate or not. Well, now the code might have worked if it didn't have those little comments before and after. So what I guess I need to do is do a cleanup routine here, don't you suppose, to where I could get rid of
Can you tell it to give you the comments, but to use that backslash, star around the comments?
I could try that. And
here's a sample comment in a calculation. Can you use this for the comment? Tell it what you want as a comment and how you want it formatted. I wonder if that would give you better result.
Yeah, you're right. I would love for that to work. But what I'm saying is, just recently they crept in all these things that weren't there a few months ago. So it's a moving target, which may make this intolerable to work with. I don't know, unless I do some little tricks here, not sure. Yeah, this is good. It's been a joy to work with. I've learned a lot from it. It's been good stuff. Super enjoyable to work with.
I wonder, like, you know, how when you use an API and if you're using a certain version of that API, that it it's locked. There's no changes to the API. But I wonder, it seems like in general, these things continue to evolve and change. And that is kind of disconcerting in the sense that like you're relying on it. And now like some functionality of it is different on top of the fact that it's probably, it's not deterministic, it's probabilistic. And I hate pronouncing that word, but anyway, you know, it adds more stress factor. So
Correct. That's what I'm coming to learn, and I'm disheartened by that. But it's okay. Now that I know it's there, when we hang up in the next few weeks, I'm going to make it so that that results is going to be cleaned up. I'll have to do it, and that's okay.
Very
I
cool.
mean, yeah, it's yeah, I mean it all started with ChatGPT last November or whenever it was, a year and a half ago, almost or less. But there's so much going on, and you know, when you present stuff like this, it lets other people think of like other creative uses of it, and there's so many people thinking about it. So I think one way or another, before you know it, we will have assistants, just like you have pair programming. You might have a rubber ducky that is a robot that is able to answer your questions and spot things that are obvious, that are hard to see, but that are instantly picked out by some code review robot that can say, hey, you know, you're not exiting the loop correctly, you're in an infinite loop or whatever. And it's amazing at the speed of light that it can do that. So
I just pasted into chat the community topic for Claris AI, and y'all can, you know, if you're on the community, you just log in and you can go to that topic and post and answer questions or ask questions and you know, share kind of what you found. Now we're seeing a bunch of information from Chris Hippolyte saying, you know, talking about CoreML, a couple other things that he's done. They've released all of the videos from the Claris Engage to the public. Again, that's on the community. If you want to see the AI sessions that they presented there, or any of the sessions actually, but I'm saying, you know, there were quite a few speakers that were talking, like 5 speakers that were talking about AI at Engage in February, and they were excellent suggestions. So, you know, again, it's a moving target, but we're all kind of learning new stuff and sharing stuff, and it's kind of fun, something different.
yes, absolutely. At this point, I would like to just remind, if we want to get off recording and just, you know, have a chat about other things, it's up to everybody if everybody wants to do that, or that's okay.
I think getting off chat would be good. That said, let me, I'll just say a couple things for the recording. So FileMaker is an interesting platform in that, unlike many other platforms, it's not text-based. It's kind of a hybrid in that the calculations are text. And as Brian mentioned, the script steps, I mean, they're sort of a complicated XML text under the hood, but they're not text in any, it doesn't seem that any of the AI programs understand the XML sufficiently to write text. So that's interesting. I am a little bit out of the loop in terms of the AI. I will just for the record say that the one use case that is top of my list for AI would be the ability to take FileMaker content videos like this one and convert the transcripts, because all this technology is coming out and it can be used together synergistically. So we've got what's that thing called, voice transcripts, right, where you like talk and then it like figures out what you said, types it. When you look at those are a mess and not really usable as such. But I'm wondering, every now and then I poke my head up to look to see how skillful the AI tools are in like taking timestamp lengths and taking a transcript and organizing it into something that could be posted and searchable and so forth and so on. So that's top of my list. But anyway, I enjoyed the presentation, picked up a couple things, and I have nothing else to say that needs to be recorded.
Thanks, Tony. That's on top of a lot of people's list. Images and videos and transcripts and PDFs, and we've just touched upon what we can do now in Claire's FileMaker Pro. So it's kind of fun.